find us back in the 60s.
In 69 to be exact.
69, very good year, very good year.
Very good year.
And Q, we're in something very unique, something you don't see every day anymore, eh?
Not really, no. So first of all, we're starting this video in the car.
Yes.
Because Cape Town has decided to deliver on its sort of name, Cape of Storms. And yeah, the weather outside's not brilliant. It's windy, it's cold, it's a bit miserable.
It's kind of British, eh?
It's kind of British.
So
as is this.
Exactly. So it's quite fitting.
Is a Series 2, 1969, 2+2 Jaguar E-Type Coupe. It's the 4.2 straight 6 with 3 SU carbs on it. And for me, this is peak E-Type.
Okay.
Because the straight 6 was much lighter than the V12. It makes the front end a lot more nimble. I personally think they sound better. And just listen to it. It's just such a creamy thing to listen to. It's beautiful.
It's completely the polar opposite of our previous video we made, eh? It's, I mean, this is not there to go super fast, a million miles an hour.
No.
As a F1 inspired gearbox, this is 4 to the floor and just a raw driving feel. If you kind of need to be able to drive this car because it's got quite an interesting gearbox in it.
Yeah, this is I believe it's a Moss 4-speed.
Okay.
So it's a little bit something that needs getting used to.
Yeah.
But it's got such a great mechanical feel to it. The whole car just feels so beautifully mechanical to drive.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about these. But by far and away, my favorite thing about the E-Type is the view over the bonnet.
Over the bonnet, yes.
Because that view is just spectacular.
And it's iconic, right?
It is.
You feel like James Bond while you're driving it. And even if you, I mean, let's face it, we're not the best looking people, but inside of it, the looks we get, they look at us like we are James Bond.
Even though James Bond never drove an E-Type.
It's fine, they don't know it. So most people would look at it, think it's kind of British and be like, well, that must be 007.
But the thing is, I've driven quite a lot of old cars, right?
Yeah.
And for the most part, they can be quite tricky and quite difficult to drive, quite hard work. Jags, for some reason, I find they were either ahead of their time or they just somehow managed to get things right in a way that other manufacturers didn't.
Yeah.
But their cars are actually, relatively speaking, very easy to drive. The clutch is fairly light, the gears are pretty easy once you get used to them. It's easy to place on the road, the visibility is pretty good. It's not a difficult car to drive.
And it's quite room. It's quite roomy for a classic car. Because I mean, we were speaking about this, and I drove something that's quite similar, in my opinion, to this, but it's almost like the poor man's E-Type, the Triumph GT6, which also gives you this view, same gearbox, but it's a bit more brutal, small, and where this is almost like you're in the lap of luxury, right?
This is a little bit more sophisticated.
It's very sophisticated. And I suppose you don't have a wallet in here, right?
No.
I also don't have a wallet in here. Why would you?
Jeremy, sorry.
Sorry, but and I mean, we got a full tank like that, so you know, it's perks of owning a Jag, and especially a Jag like this, something that's iconic, something that everyone can relate to. And I mean, everyone kind of knows the E-Type. Even if you're not the biggest car person, you know what an E-Type is.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not just the way it looks, like you said, the way it drives easy, but it's quite sporty for its nature.
Yeah, no, it's a proper sports car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very darty, it's quite maneuverable, it's agile. It's got really great feedback through the wheel. This isn't a standard steering wheel.
Yeah.
This is a little bit smaller than the stock
Yeah,
wheel.
I see the standard wheel is here, so I can kind of be driving with you.
It's a little bit bigger than the
the camera
wheel
here
that's
in the
here.
back would be able to compare size.
But this actually makes it more comfortable to drive because the steering wheel isn't so on your legs and in your way. But I just love the way that these old cars have a sort of responsiveness and a mechanical feel to them. And you can hear and smell things in here that you don't hear and smell in a modern car. Like you can hear the fuel pump clicking away behind us, and the whine of the gearbox and the differential. It's a machine.
Fuel smells, everything.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I
Now,
love this thing.
Speaking about that, because that's something I would like to speak about while we are driving it, is if you had the money, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll buy it. But would you resto mod it or would you keep it standard? Let's say you had the option. Let's do this. So this one is obviously in very good nick. It's something you wouldn't want to rip the heart out and give it a transplant. But let's say you had the money to either choose between original example like this, or you could buy a bit more of a dinged up one and resto mod it. What route would you take?
Look, we've actually had a sort of Project E-Type in the showroom before. That was a Series 3 with a V12 in it, and it was a roadster.
Okay.
That car was begging to be a resto mod.
Yeah.
This one I would keep stock and keep it original.
Okay.
Which one would I rather own? I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I love original cars, but at the same time, I love a resto mod if done properly.
Yes.
The problem is, to do a resto mod properly, it's a very, very expensive exercise.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of people don't realize it when they take it on.
Yeah.
I mean, to give you a perfect example, there is a commercially available resto mod available of the E-Type, and it's called the Eagle Speedster, and it costs £650,000.
Yeah, that one's gonna hurt, eh? That's gonna hurt the pocket quite a bit. And I mean, if you're a Jag driver, you don't really have a wallet, right? So I'm not sure how you're gonna pay. Yeah, I'm not sure how you're gonna pay. But that's what I was thinking, right? Is E-Type brilliant, beautiful, and if you think of a resto mod, you're kind of doing that for the dynamics of the car. But I've never seen someone, even though we say it is a proper sports car, it is a nice direct feeling thing, I've never seen anyone rag on an E-Type.
Well, the thing is, it's an old car. This car was built in 1969. You don't go and chase your granny around the garden with a baseball bat, do you?
No, 100%.
So,
but I mean, if you look at like a Junior, I mean, you see a lot of people taking their Junior to the occasional track day, even though it's from the 60s and the 70s. But it's because it's got a nimble, lightweight sports car, where this is not just that, it's kind of a elegance thing. It's kind of a...
Well, that's because you alpha boys are all riffraff, and us Jaguar owners are more sophisticated.
you know. But so other than the sophistication issues and the wallet issues, I kind of think I'd keep it original rather than a resto mod in this case, even though I am a big fan of a resto mod. I mean, you guys had that Corvette, but that's kind of a story. But that car is way better than a resto mod.
Oh yeah,
There's no
absolutely.
question asked.
But that's because the Corvette, as a base car, was terrible.
Yes, and then the Junior is kind of also in between for me, because I also just love the originality of a Junior. But then you look at what the people from Alphaholics has done, and that is just awesome.
It is on a different level.
It's on a different level.
But look at the cost again.
Exactly.
To do a resto mod properly costs way more
100%.
than just building a nice original example or buying a nice original example.
Yes. But
And this car is quite an interesting story because the current owner of this car has had it for 25 years.
okay,
And, you know, you could argue it's in really good condition, but it's not concourse.
yeah,
And it doesn't need a hell of a lot to make it concourse.
yeah,
But the reason he kept it like this is, I think, because this is such a nice driver.
yes,
If you go and restore this thing to concourse condition, you're going to be a little bit sort of precious about it. You don't
Yeah.
want to take it out on a Saturday afternoon on Granger Bay Boulevard in traffic.
yeah,
Whereas now you can drive it.
yeah,
You can jump in it on a Sunday, you can go to a restaurant, you can park it, you can leave it out at restaurants and stuff. You're not going to be too precious about it. It's a car. You can use it.
yeah.
And
And that's the brilliance of proper engineering back in the good olden days, as they would say, and just someone that loved the car, took care of it, and drove it. He didn't just stop it, because I can guarantee you, if this car was just parked, we would be having a different conversation now.
Oh,
It
yeah,
would
absolutely.
look nice, it would feel, you know, premium and look like it's never been sat in, but we'll probably find that we'd be sat in traffic and the heat just start creeping over what we would want it to creep, you know, and that's not fun. That's kind of a stigma of classic ownership, of you scared of driving it, where this one's been driven and you can continue driving it and it would last another 50 years if you look after it.
No, exactly. But, you know, coming back to the whole E-typeness,
Yeah,
I can't think of very many cars throughout history that caused the kind of sensation and stir that the E-Type did when it came out.
yeah,
Because this thing was unlike anything the world had ever seen before.
yeah,
And it came out at a price that put much more expensive cars to shame.
yeah,
Because this thing was, in its day, quick.
yeah,
And, you know, it was like a fraction of the price of a Ferrari that couldn't keep up.
exactly. And it's look, I would want to premise to anyone thinking of buying a classic, let's not say the E-Type, right? Let's say MGB GT. You can
Another
buy
good example.
those for 100k, under 100k even. It's also a kind of 2+2 configuration like this, and it's gonna give you an experience that you can't explain from a modern car. It's you need to own a classic. You know, everyone says you need to own an Alpha to be a petrolhead, but I would say you need to own a classic to be a petrolhead, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because
Something that's a proper machine, a proper
yes,
car.
and I'm not saying go and spend the E-Type money if you can. Oh, 100% do it. But if you can't, go out, get yourself a MGB GT or something similar like that. And
Ford Cortina.
Ford Cortina. And I mean, the British kind of did it well. The British kind of did classics well. I would argue the Italians as well, but there's something in a British classic, Triumph, MG, Jags, that just, it works. It works.
They have
It's-
an elegance about them.
They've got an elegance about them, and you're gonna have to sometimes get a bit creative with parts or whatever. But what's beautiful about a classic is you can have stuff made. You can have stuff
Yeah.
wrangled for it. You
Because it's all
don't-
mechanical. It's
Exactly.
not electrical gizmotrons and whiz-bangs and continuum transfunctioners and stuff like that.
stuff like that. Yeah,
It's a gear or a lever or a bracket or a thing, you know. It's mechanical stuff.
Yes. And that's brilliant. That's brilliant to me, because that means when I get home, I can think on it myself before having to go spend millions at a mechanic for it. Which
Absolutely.
just helps me out a bit, you know. It helps out the wallet that I've misplaced in my Jag.
Indeed.
So yeah, I mean,
I like
that's
it.
been brilliant. I like it, and go buy a classic, guys. And when you buy a classic, you can say the following catchphrase:
Stay classic.
stay classy.
Stay classic.
Stay classy. So, stay classy, San Diego.